Now this illustration deals with arc flash protection. In accordance with NEC 110.16, B as in boy, informational notes 2 and 3. Now, to get into these requirements, let's first take a look at the note 1 right above the illustration. Now with me, let's review it. It states, see NFPA 70E for assistance in determining exposures, planning safe work practices, and selecting the appropriate PPE. Now, the note 2 states, now for labeling, suggestions and recommendations, see the ANSI standard Z as in zebra 535.4 for guidelines pertaining to designing safety signs and labels to provide the warnings that the NEC calls for. Now, if you notice the right above the equipment, we have electrical equipment shall be marked in the field to warn workers of electrical arc flash condition. Now, when would the field requirement of 110.16 be required? It's when that marking is not on the equipment from the manufacturer, but we warn about the electrical arc condition that if one developed, it could burn someone beyond a second-degree burn, which is 1.2 calories per centimeter squared, as listed in NFPA 70E. Now, the markings on the equipment would give a warning for the electrical worker to see. Also, 110.24 requires the available short circuit current to be provided on a label at the equipment. So we basically would review 110.16, 110.21, and 110.24 for this arc flash protection requirements that are required by 110.16b, informational note 2 and 3 is our main section, but as recommended, 110.21 and 110.24 should also be reviewed. And then notice the person is qualified to perform the task that is at hand in front of this electrical equipment. Notice there's a wall behind that person, so condition 1, 2, or 3 would be applicable. In this case, only 1 and 2 would be applicable of the conditions because there's no equipment behind her back. So it's either an insulated wall, condition 1, grounded wall, condition 2, and here we're dealing with systems of 1,000 volts or less. So this illustration is showing us that we have an arc flash protection requirement here to determine the boundaries, the arc flash boundary, the limited approach boundary, and the restricted approach boundary. We would then have to go to the NFPA 70E standard, and we would review 130.4 and 130.5 is where we would start to perform this type of condition to find arc flash boundaries, restrictive boundaries, and limited boundaries. So this illustration is dealing mainly with the arc flash protection warning that you need arc flash protection based upon the label that must be put on by 110.16b. Now, one other thing I'd like to point out, this label is required to be installed and provided by the installer or the manufacturer. When the labels that are put on for the arc flash protection and the safety related work practices required, then we would look at the 70E document, the NFPA, and we would look at section 130.5H is in hot to determine exactly who has the responsibility to provide the information on that label, and that's the owner of the equipment. So kind of keep that in mind where the NEC must apply, where 70E must apply, and then where maintenance procedures, when the equipment has been installed and accepted, must be applied in accordance with NFPA 70B.